This is the January 29th continuation period of Livingston County Zoning Board of Appeals review of the Livingston County zoning case issue 714, Pleasant Ridge Energy LLC, Pleasant Ridge Wind Energy Projects. Mike Cornell. Here. John Vinson. Here. Richard Kiefer. Here. Diana Iverson. Here. Howard Zimmerman. Here. And John Huesman is here. So we have a quorum. After the break tonight, we'll probably make an announcement and remind everybody what our future meeting dates are and kind of clarify that for everybody at that point in time.
All right, at this time I'd like to welcome everybody back this evening. I did some counting. Looks like this is our 14th evening together. So hopefully we can continue our expeditious process here and get through this. So there's a few housekeeping items that we need to take care of. I've got some exhibits that we need to get put into the record. So I'll go ahead and start that. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 263 is the punch license registration detail. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 264 is the Michigan Compiled Laws 333.16801. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 265 is the Michigan Compiled Laws 333.16803. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 266 is the Michigan Compiled Laws 333.16807. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 268 is an ASHA Code of Ethics. ASHA stands for American Speech Language Hearing Association. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 269 is the recommended update of sample zoning for wind energy systems. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 270 is the Council of Canadian Academy's expert panel on wind turbine noise and human health. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 271 is the 11-11-14 Frontiers in Public Health. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 274 is the advisory group, the Society for Wind Vigilance. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 275 is the Wind Turbine Syndrome excerpts. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 281 is the 2014 NHMRC-Australia. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 282 is the National Wind Watch Wind Energy Opposition and Action Group. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 292 is the Punch Audiology Today submittal. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 297 is the 2014 PEW Michigan Policy Brief. Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 273 is the Society for Wind Vigilance, Annoyance, and Wind Turbines. And just as a note, Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 276 was struck out of record, so we should not have anything reflecting that. All right. Just as a quick reminder, and just to kind of give everybody a focus on as we move forward, just as a result of all the hearings in general, there's a perception on the part of the ZBA that there has been a significant amount of irrelevant information submitted, the presentation of which has consumed a great deal of time, we can all agree. The ZBA is asking all concerned to do a better job of asking and answering questions related to relevant material. In other words, please be more concise on your questions and quickly get to the point with the questions. Otherwise, we may be compelled to put some time limitations on the presentations and the cross-examination of the witnesses. So with that, we we talked at the last meeting about an individual coming to testify. I believe there was a logistics issue with that. Is that correct, Mr. Lukians?
Actually, we turn on his mic. What occurred was Mr. Blazer called me Tuesday morning and advised that he would not be able to cross-examine Mr. Rand efficiently tonight, given the fact that he only received the report Monday night. I think that was the date, that's the days. So he had asked that we either bring back Mr. Rand a second time or delay his testimony until later this month. The reason the report from Mr. Rand was so late was it was actually done on the 21st, as you will see here in a second. But because of the new information from Mr. Parzik, we were not sure if we needed to change Mr. Rand's report. Until Monday, I wasn't clear on whether he would need a new report with that new information. He did not, so I turned over the report at that time. Mr. Blazer said it was not, he didn't have enough time to cross-examine, prepare for cross-examination in the 2.5 days. So we had moved Mr. Rand back until I think he's going to testify on the 9th, which is the first hearing date after next week.
Okay, that seems understandable. I would be all right with postponing him, obviously, if we can have a better more succinct cross-examination. So, where that leaves us tonight, I believe, Mr. Lukians, you have looked at other opportunities to have witnesses testify this evening. Is that correct?
We have some witnesses. I don't know that we'll fill up the whole night, but we've tried to bring in some people at least, so we're making some use of the time. We have, I think, 5 people that I know of who are willing to testify tonight. There may be others. I know an email went out to some people, but I'm aware of 5 individuals, most of which will be fairly clear, actually very short.
Okay. So that may leave us an opportunity to have some other individuals from our interested parties list. You guys wouldn't have any opposition with that, I would expect not. So, okay. I guess with that, Mr. Lukians, why don't we get going, see how things go. I will be swearing all your witnesses in, and we'll go through the standard process like we've done any expert witnesses. I would remind everybody that is going to come up and speak on behalf or as a witness that they will be subject to cross-examination by us, county board, officials, other interested parties, others from the audience, counsel from the applicant. I of course will ask that as we have individuals that potentially aren't per se experts in the field, that we do consider our questions and not. I'll have to stop if I feel like it's at any point badgering a witness. I can't allow that to happen here for just individuals from the audience. I don't want that to happen. So I'm throwing it out there right away so that we're all in the same understanding. So,
Mr. Chairman, there is one thing I do need to raise.
Okay.
2 of the 5 people, well, I got the list of 5 people this morning for Mr. Lukians. 2 of them I knew about before. 3 of them I just learned about today. None of those 3 are on the signed list. I'm going to have to make a game time decision about whether or not I need to ask any of these people any questions. My gut tells me I won't, but I don't want to be in the position of having to ask. You know, the regular rules of this board are that a party presents all of its witnesses and then they're all subject to cross. That's how we did it in my case. We've made exceptions for Mr. Lukians, and I'm not complaining about it because he has some people who are coming from out of town, even though we did as well. That's one of the reasons why we ultimately decided it's better to just bring Rand in once rather than twice. I recognize there's an expense issue as well. but we can't effectively and efficiently and in a succinct manner cross-examine people if I don't find out about them until the day they're going to come up here. I've been asking Mr. Lucahan since November 11th for his witness list. My latest request was this morning. I still don't have it. And I just think that's unfair. And I'd ask that you direct Mr. Lucahan to provide me with his witness list, so not only we can know, but you all can know how many people he intends to call and how long this hearing may actually last.
When I know what the exact witness list is, I will advise Mr. Blazer. Until Tuesday morning, I did not even know that we would be presenting witnesses today. We've been scrambling to get people because of an issue that I did not cause. As far as a witness list, that is still being worked on. When I knew my experts, I gave those to Mr. Blazer immediately. He's had that for 2 months. These individual witnesses that we're talking about, it really kind of depends on how this plays out. And there are not a ton of them. The 3 that he has not heard about tonight, I think once he hears them, he's going to understand that, first of all, we didn't talk to him until yesterday. Secondly, I think he's going to, if he thinks this is trial by ambush, maybe he should listen and see if it actually occurs, because the 3 of these people are pretty simple. They're going to make statements of fact of having lived in a wind farm. This is not the kind of stuff that is, they're not experts in any stretch of the imagination, except for the one. Dr. Whitman has some specific knowledge, but he's been on this list forever.
Well,
Okay.
if I may.
Let me just, since the list continues to evolve, Jane's still back there taking names. If there's an interested party that would like to speak, I guess to have a concise list is difficult. It is my understanding that Mr. Lucahan has shared with Mr. Blazer all the expert witnesses with regard to this. I believe that these may be interested citizens, community members, more than witnesses in that scope. So with that,
Well, if I can clear up one thing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Because you're right, the sign-up list does continue to evolve. The people I'm talking about aren't on that list. So Mr. Whitman, who will, I understand, speak today, clearly is, and he's one of Mr. Lucahan's clients. Ms. Campbell, I understand, is going to speak today. She is on the sign-up list. The other 3 who I learned about today are they're not on any list. And the list I'm talking about is not the sign-up list. It's the list of people that the attorney for the opponents in this matter intends to call as his witnesses. I've had his hired gun list for quite some time. I'm not complaining about that.
Like your hired gun list? Come on. Let's
Okay,
at least talk normal instead of trying to sell things.
I have had his consultant list for quite some time.
okay, we can all just go home.
Right.
How about we all just stay? Why don't we call up the first witness? Let's just move on.
And you would ask that Margie Hall to come to the stand.
Ms. Hall, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Can you please state your name and address for the court reporter?
My name is Margie Hall. My address is 18156.
Speak a little closer.
Okay. My name is Margie Hall. My address is 18156 North 00 East Road, Flanagan, Illinois.
All right, Mr. Lucahan, you may proceed.
Ms. Hall, I know you have a statement you would like to read. Just feel free to read it.
Okay. Public speaking is very much out of my comfort zone, but I feel a burden on my heart that this is the right thing to do. I have been directly affected by the Minnow Wind Farm in a number of negative ways. I live in a country farmhouse on 3 acres located between Flanagan and Minnow in the heart of the wind farm. I have lived in my current home for the past 24 years. I grew up on a dairy farm and have been taught to value farmland and protect it. The wind turbines violate the natural heritage of our land. I believe it is very important to think of future generations and the legacy we will leave. The turbines near my home are extremely loud. It took me months to be able to sleep normally after they began operating. Now, more than 2 years later, I still wake up at times due to the noise. Huge shadows sweep inside my home from the rotating blades on a daily basis. I used an antenna for television for 22 years. Once the turbines began operating, I lost all reception, ending up with a blank television screen. I was forced to purchase a satellite dish if I wanted television reception, as there were no alternatives available. I did not want a satellite dish, but had no other option. It took 8 months of phone calls, waiting, and bargaining until Algonquin Power, working in conjunction with Gamesa, finally paid for a mere 2 years of my satellite service. They informed me the agreement could be renewed after 2 years, but when the time for renewal came, none of the phone numbers I had been given were in operation. I had to call a local farmer to obtain an accurate phone number. I then had to start from scratch explaining my situation. I am in the process of speaking to the 3rd different representative from the wind farm since I began this ordeal. Apparently, people leave the company quite frequently. I have been unable to get an agreement for payment thus far, as the company has been stubborn, evasive, and completely unwilling to give me a fair settlement for problems for which they are directly responsible. As twilight approaches, I take a moment to focus on the view from my porch. My gaze lingers on the striking shades of orange and pink as the sun slips out of sight. Gigantic wind towers, deeply secured in layers of cement, sprout up haphazardly across the land I dearly love. My eyes begin to well up once more as I contemplate the scarring of this land which God has entrusted to our care. The now sadly familiar sea of blinking red lights atop the turbines consumes the sky, obscuring the stars. The continual roar of the blades resounds, forcing me from reverie back to reality. I have been through various emotions through this experience, but in the end, I feel overwhelming sorrow. I have chosen to live in the country because I treasure the beauty of nature and the landscape. I love the peacefulness of the countryside. This has forever been taken from me, and it deeply grieves my heart. Is the profit gained by erecting these towers truly worth the horrific loss of this land with which we have been blessed?
Ms. Hall, I have one question for you. How close do you live to the nearest wind turbine?
About a quarter of a mile.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Any school districts or government body officials have any questions for Ms. Hall? Anybody? All right. Do we have any questions? Do you have anything? All right. Applicant's attorney.
No questions.
Okay. County council. Do we have any? Okay. Other interested parties within the audience not represented by council? Anybody out there? All right. Ms. Hall, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. We would ask that Ms. Sharon Roberts testify.
Roberts, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you please state your name and address for the court reporter?
My name is Sharon Roberts. I live at 2602 East 1700 North Road, Flanagan.
Thank you. Mr. Lukens, you may proceed.
Ms. Roberts, I think you also have a statement you would just like to make.
Yeah, I didn't really prepare it right.
You don't have to have it prepared. Well, I think with this board, let me ask this first question. How close, where do you live?
We live 1 mile west of Flanagan on 116. The nearest turbine to us is approximately 1.25 miles, 1.5 miles.
Okay. And you've had experience living in this wind farm. Could you tell us about the experience that you've
Yes,
had, et cetera?
when we first got the notice that the wind farm was going to go in, we really were naive or ignorant, I'm not sure which. We felt it was an opportunity for our neighbors, our area farmers, to have additional revenue. Other than the eyesore, we didn't really know that much about them, and we thought that it would be beneficial for the farmers. We could live with it. We were mistaken. I wish I had been more active as you people have been. Like I said, we live 1.25 miles. If we're outside, we hear the hum of the generator, you hear the whip of the blades, even at that distance. At this time of year, you have strobing across our property. We have 5 acres. And we've experienced the same thing as Marky with the contacts with the wind farm, because when they erected them, we started noticing difficulty with our TV reception. Even the radio stations don't come in well. When they started putting them into operation, we lost TV signal for the most part. Depending on the wind, we'll get a channel here and there. We began negotiating with the wind farm. We've actually been through 4 different representatives trying to reach a settlement. The first contract that we agreed on that they sent us did not reflect what we had verbally agreed on, so we refused to sign it. By that time, they had another representative. We start from scratch. We're over 2 years into this and have yet to have a settlement. One thing that really bothered me about that is they came to our home, a representative from the Mesa or Algonquin, I'm not sure who owns it, as they did many other people in our community that had lost TV service, and made an offer of $2,500. And they assured us that within 5 years, antenna TV would be gone, that the government was all behind that to get rid of it. I knew different. My husband and I had looked into it, and we knew that that was not the truth. Kindly asked the person to leave our home instead of sitting at the kitchen table with us. But unfortunately, there were many elderly people in our community who believe this person. They are a company, a business that the county has endorsed. They have brought them into our county to do business. So there were people in their 70s and 80s in our area who signed this contract, and I viewed it as elder abuse. The one point that I really wanted to make with this group of people is that if they go in and build the wind farm and you experience any problems like we have, you will be on your own to negotiate and to settle, because numerous times we contacted Charles Shope. I contacted him at times to get phone numbers when the number of the representative I'd been working with was no longer an active number. And I asked him if he could tell me the other people who were contacting them so we could try to get together. And he said no, that really, he couldn't do that. And I said, well, can you give them my name and number and tell them to contact me so we can all get together and do this as a community? And he said, no, that was really out of the scope of what the county could do. And so I had people calling me, and we tried to get together, but this representative was very persistent in going to people with the divide and conquer attitude, and unfortunately, I think Marky and I are the only ones that have held up. And at this point, they have made us an offer, but they are not viewing it as damages. They want it to be taxable. And the other people who have received payment from them come to find out that that money was also seen as taxable. So it is an ongoing issue, and it's one that you'll be on your own to settle with the company.
Ms. Hall, you said, how long has it been you've been without television reception?
A little over 2 years. It would have been 2 years last November.
And you said you've been dealing with 4 different representatives. Is that within that same time period?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else you wish to tell us, the board?
No, I think it's...
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Zoning board members, do we have any questions?
All right. Local governments, school districts,
Anybody out there have any questions for Ms. Roberts? All right. Applicant's counsel.
No questions.
Thank you. Other interested parties not represented by counsel. Anybody out there? All right, Livingston County staff. Oh. All right, Ms. Roberts, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Appreciate it.
We would ask that Wesley Engelhardt come to the stand.
Mr. Winkler, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, can you please state your name and address for the court reporter?
Wes Engelhardt, Compton, Illinois.
Thank you. Mr. Lukens, you may proceed.
Mr. Engelhardt, I believe you have certain statements you'd like to make, and I'll just let you make them. If I have any questions, I'll follow up, okay?
Okay. My name is Wes Engelhardt, Compton, Illinois, about 25 miles north of the South Peru. In 2010 and 11, a wind company come in and started construction and whatever. First, I'm going to speak in behalf of the township. I am on the Township Board of Trustees during the construction of the wind farm. My first comment, get a good lawyer. Without that, you're dead. During construction, the road commissioner and 2 extra people had to patrol the roads just about night and day, 7 days a week, to catch construction equipment on the wrong roads, on wrong bridges, sneaking inside roads and everything else. The company and the other people tried to run equipment in and out, roads that weren't posted to run them in and out. The companies had maps, supposedly for the truck drivers, cement trucks and everything else, but occasionally they got lost and not on the right roads. At the end of the project, the company was blacktopping 1 mile. Excuse me. At the end of the project, there was 1 mile of gravel road. That road was supposed to be dug up, a new base put in, and re-put down gravel. The construction company decided the cheapest way was just to lay blacktop over. The township and the county told them no, this was not going to happen. There wasn't a good base under it. Well, one day we got a 1 mile blacktop road. If you're on a township with no base under this road, you know it's only going to last a year or 2. Also, at the end of the project, they were doing another mile of road. The company they hired blacktopped it, but they put 2 inches of blacktop right over a concrete bridge. Well, that took 20,000 pounds off the bridge limit. So the company had to hire one of these grinding machines to come grind the blacktop back off the top of this bridge. In grinding it off, they scar fired up the top of the bridge. Well, that's been 2 years ago, and we yet have them fix it the way it was supposed to be. We also have box culverts and other culverts on the road that were never fixed. At the moment, township we're holding $40,000 in escrow funds for repairs. That's not nowhere near what's going to cover the cost to fix all the problems they refuse to fix. Be careful with the wind farm and construction companies. They don't always say or do what they're say they're supposed to. Also, when you're dealing with the wind farm company or the construction company, the personnel change, if not daily, weekly. You'll maybe get comfortable dealing with one person, the next week there'll be a total different person in charge, and he knows nothing what you maybe made agreement the week before with the other guy. Also, the head of the wind farm, we had to go to wind that time. His office was in Michigan Avenue in Chicago. Well, you can imagine how us out in Lee County trying to call him in Michigan Avenue, refused phone calls, they wanted you to email everything, and you know, it was just about impossible to get anything done. My next comments will be as a landowner. I had 500 acres of land. Initially, when I started, I had hoped for 1 or 2 windmills. Now I have 5. What happened? Let's start here. From the time I signed up the first time, I went through probably at least 8 or 10 companies. They keep turning around selling it, reselling it, reselling it. After the county, or after the one company got approval from the county for 32 windmills, they sold it off to the next company. That company come back and says, we don't make big windmills, we make little ones. We want 72. So now we have 72 windmills in less than 6 square miles. A lot tighter than that. My attorney there's got a map if you want to see it. So needless to say, 32 would not have been too bad for noise and everything else, but now you have 72, you've got a real problem. Also, the company started construction after Labor Day. Well, you can imagine Northern Illinois after Labor Day starting to dig up and tear through fields, and time you get to November and December, you've got rainy weather, snow. I mean, it was a total disaster. They had one grain buried, it took them a month to get it out. The company showed up in June when crops were about 10 inches high to do boring. So here come the company out through your fields, cornfields, bean fields, sort of haphazardly to a point, GPS point, but bored. Then they sometimes took the same path back, sometimes they sort of took a new route back. A few weeks later, they come with a much bigger vehicle and did sound testing where they took vibration tests to see if the soil was right. Well, needless to say, that truck didn't always follow the same path either. So, time we got down, we had numerous paths all over the place. When they started, and after Labor Day, of course, your corn is 6, 8 foot high, beans 8 foot high. They came with a grader, this bulldozed the dirt and the corn, the beans off to the sides, made their paths. Well, next spring, you can imagine what a mess we have. We have stalks of corn that have not degraded over the year, and beans and all mixed up. It was a total disaster the next spring. Also, during construction, the construction companies sort of veered over into neighbors' fields where they weren't supposed to be. Somehow, somebody thought a path was supposed to go here, but it wasn't. When the people called the police said, don't bother them. They're not hurting anything. So don't call the police if you have trouble, because they won't come and help you. Okay, on my farm, they were supposed to fix 2 bridges to make it so they could drive their trucks over. They decided that they would just drive through my field, so they bulldozed a 1/4 mile through my field, hundreds of trucks, cement trucks, big construction trucks through my field. Well, you can imagine for the next couple of years, and this is probably going on the 4th year now, I don't get much crops because it's still compacted so bad. We've tried chiseling numerous times, tearing it up. It just doesn't work. If you have been to one of these wind projects and you have a farm, can you imagine a 1 million pound crane with a track 6 feet wide going through your fields? If you think your tractor has compaction, guess what? You're in for a new surprise. For the next few years, you'll see if you have GPS or the yield mapping on your combines, you'll see a big difference when you go through these paths. Although they tried to dig it up, it didn't work. Also, if you have a farm, you know about farm tile. Nowadays, lots of us still have the old clay tile. Lots of us have the new black corrugated tile. Well, in the process of putting in power lines and roads and everything else, some of these tile got broken. Instead of hiring a local company that maybe we would trust, they hired their fly-by-night crew. Well, you can imagine what a mess that ended up. Years later, we're still fixing tile. At my particular place, we had a 10-inch corrugated tile. They just dropped in a piece of white PVC pipe, threw it in there, covered it up. Well, next spring, I had this big hole in that field. Then I had to hire my company to come fix it right. Near the end of the project, as they were winding down, the company bought in big dumpsters. Now these like 20, 25 feet long. They were throwing whatever run the construction piece and parts that they didn't need. Well, needless to say, they also got a bunch of used tires. There was house shingles. People were bringing stuff out from towns, throwing it in the dumpsters, throwing it next to it. And one of the tires was on my farm, and I got hauled in by the police and had to bail myself out and go to court and spend my own money trying to defend myself. They thought I was dumping tires in their construction dumpsters. Also, when they started the project, they had an engineer in Texas that was pinpointing where the windmills would be. Well, when you're in Texas and the windmills are in Illinois, you don't have a real idea where waterways, low ground, standing water in the spring, and many other problems are. Well, when they had quite a few problems having to move towers to get around, like I'd say, low ground waterways. They ran a road right through one of my waterways. We told me, you can't put a road through my waterway, but it's there. Also, my house has 2 windmills to the east, 2 windmills to the west. In the spring, and most of the year, I have, when the sun comes up in the east, in the winter, and in the spring, I have the shadow flicker. It looks like a propeller blade going around my house. Even when you shut the blinds, it's still flickering. And when the sun goes down in the west, I have 2 more windmills, the same thing. Late in the afternoon, it looks like there's somebody out there with an airplane with the propellers going around. Also, I'd like to agree with the past lady. You will probably lose some TV reception and also nowadays internet if you get your internet off the little areas that are on the side of your house on your TV towers. If a tower is in line with one of those antennas, you will have some problems. Just to clarify, I have 5 towers. I wish I had never did it. I get about $37,000 a year. It's not worth the hassle. I wish I had never done it. Thank you.
Mr. Engelhardt, I just have a couple of very quick follow-up questions. You said drain tiles were broken, correct?
Excuse me, I'm just a little hard.
Sorry, and I'm not speaking very loudly, so I apologize. You said in your testimony that drain tiles, field tiles had
Yes.
broken.
Yes.
In my experience, and tell me if I'm wrong, did those types of tiles, when they're broken, you don't immediately know that they're broken, correct?
You're right. A lot of tiles were put in maybe 30, 40 years ago were clay tile. The new ones are black plastic. When they were laying the miles of power lines from each tower back and forth, they were supposed to have a couple people walking behind the tiling machine and putting little flags down to, here's the broken tile, come fix it. Unfortunately, I don't think they caught them all. Well then, you're probably all right for a year or two, but all of a sudden, we got a wet hole out here, my tractor's stuck. Well, let's check over here. And so, yep, there's a crushed tile, or they never fixed it to start with. And it's quite interesting, especially if you find it after your crop is up a little bit, then you'll have to drive through stuff to fix it.
Yeah, and forgive me, because I'm the ultimate city kid, so I know almost nothing about farming. What's the effect of that kind of thing on your farming ability?
Well, usually in the spring, that's when the water's melting, the ground is soaking up all the water. Well, if you have a tile that's plugged, if you go back up toward the high ground, the water will back up, and all of a sudden when you start through with your tractor, piece of machinery, you run into a mud hole, and hopefully you can back out before you get the thing stuck. And also, like I said, when they had 2 cranes at our project. One little crane set up the first 2 columns. Then they had this one that was like 300 feet high. That one came through again. So there was 2 different cranes ran around this whole project for 72 windmills. So you can imagine the compaction going through there.
And when it gets compacted, what happens to your ability to farm then?
Tiles are about 3 feet in the ground. Well, most farm machinery doesn't bother it, but when you cut through it with a tiling machine or with that much weight concentrated, it's, gonna break it.
Can I have about 2 minutes? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have no further questions, Mr. Engelhardt, at this time. Thank you, Mr. Engelhardt. I don't think I have no further. How much money did you have to expend to fix on your own? I know you hired your own company to fix the tile. I think you said.
Excuse me?
I think you said that you hired your own company. You had to hire a company to fix tile.
Well, I certainly didn't want them to come back to it, so it was over the last year or 2, I probably spent $1,500, $2,000. I had stuff done right by the local company I've dealt with for probably 30 years.
And over how many feet of tile did you have to have replaced? How many feet of tile did you have to have replaced?
My guess is it was probably less than 200 feet, but sometimes they have to, especially in a clay tile situation, they have to replace more because they're older to make a good fit.
I assume you had a contract with the wind turbine company, correct? I mean,
Probably 15, 20 years ago, I signed up with a local guy. He built a small wind farm like Mendota. Then he sat on our contracts for a few years, sold them out to one company. They had all around. They sold to another company. They sold to another company. Then, like I say, one of the companies went to the county. They got okayed for 32 windmills. They immediately turned around and sold it to another company, Goldwind. They said, we don't make big generators, we make small ones. So we want permission to put 72 in. So now, which they went ahead and did, now they sold the company off again. So now you just keep dealing with different people every couple of years.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Hayward.
Fellow board members, do we have any questions at this point for Mr. Engelhardt? Do not. County, no. School districts, government, local government. Anybody out there? All right. Applicants council.
Mr. Engelhardt, the wind farm that you've been talking about, is that the Mendota Hills wind farm?
No, it's not. It's, yeah. No, it's the next one north. It's Goldwind right back.
I think, is it Shady Oaks? I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a sheet in front of me.
Is it Shady Oaks?
Shady Oaks, yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, Mr. Engelhardt. We might have some more. If you, no.
Well, it took me 2 hours to get down here.
Mr. Engelhardt,
Is there any other interested parties
just wait a second.
out there?
I just make one point.
All right. Carolyn, we'll get to yours too. Okay, speak loudly and I think we can probably get it.
Okay, I was just wondering, since you had contracts with wind farms, when you repair the tile on your own, did you have to get the company's permission to go out and do that first? Or did you do it?
To work on the tile?
Yes.
No. It's the tile over top of the power lines. When you do that, you have to call Julie. Julie has to come out, flag the power line if it happens to be on a power line, which takes a couple of days. Then hopefully you can get your tile there in a day or two and get things fixed and like that. They have, the new company that's taken over has given me a little money for fixing some, but when I first ended, I said the heck with it, and I had to fix my own because I didn't trust them.
But you don't have to get the company's okay first before you go ahead and do your own repairs. Because of these contracts, easements and all that stuff.
I'm not sure what your question is, sir.
Sir, can you for me identify yourself?
Steve Knauer. Steve Knauer.
All right.
There you.
Okay, and I believe his question was, do you need permission from the wind farm company to actually go back in and work on your own tile?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. I believe I have one other person out there with questions. Carolyn, did you have some questions? Okay. Please identify yourself for us and then you can...
I'm Carolyn Gerwin. I just had a couple questions. You indicated that you have flicker from both sunrise and sunset, I believe, right?
That's correct.
And how close are the turbines to your home? How many are within a mile? How many are within 2 miles?
I have one turbine is southeast of my house at less than a quarter mile. I have one that's northeast of my house, approximately half a mile. To the west of my house, I have one southeast and one northeast of my house, both quarter-mile away. And like I say, when the sun comes up out at this time of the year, about 7:30, when the sun just gets up, it's hard, over the horizon, if it's a nice day, I get the shadow flicker. You can close the blinds, and it's just that shadow flicker for probably an hour.
And did you say that Goldwyn makes the turbines that they install, or did they just buy them?
They supposedly make them in China.
Okay, so those are Chinese turbines, and it's a Chinese company? Do you have any issues with noise?
With who?
Noise from the turbines?
Yes, when you go outside in the daytime or evening, if you come up and there's no wind, you don't hear it. But people showed up, well, we don't hear them. Well, if you stand right under them, it's probably that. But if you get a quarter mile away, you'll get the whop, whop, whop. Also, in my house, when I go to bed at night, there's a low-level humming vibration. As I say, I have a map, and if you want to see it, I have so many windmills around my home that they are generating a low-level humming. I can hear it in the house when I'm trying to go to sleep. Unfortunately, I guess I'm pretty good. I lay my head down, go to sleep, not like the other lady, but in the summertime, if you go outside, it's the wop, wop, wop. If you look outside at night, it looks like you're over here in the field, you got all the red lights blinking. It's a no-win situation.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? All right. County officials, do we have anything? Nothing? Okay. Mr. Engelhardt, thank you. Have a safe drive home.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Excuse me? I got it.
Okay. Thanks.
Just as a reminder too, for everyone in the audience, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and speak. I do ask that everybody respect that, and please keep your conversations down during other people up here testifying. They feel compelled to be up here. We need to listen to what they have to say. So please have some respect for that. All right, Mr. Luke Gans.
Yeah, we would call Dr. Al Whitman to the stand.
Mr. Whitman, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now and here shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name and address for our court reporter?
Sure. Alan Whitman, 35671 East 1000 North Road, Chatsworth.
Thank you. Mr. Luke Gans, you may proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Whitman, I think you have a statement you'd like to make.
I was just going to briefly, hopefully, tell you some research that I've done here. I've been looking into effects of wind turbines on livestock. I've contacted lots of professional organizations, professional veterinary organizations, bovine practitioners, swine practitioners, equine practitioners, small ruminant practitioners, National Pork Board. And I guess the amazing thing, or the stunning thing to me, is the lack of information that's out there, of responsible information.
Dr. Whitman, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me just start. Could you kind of tell us, professionally, your professional background? I know you're a veterinarian, but I don't think that's in the record. If you could just kind of...
I'm a mixed animal practitioner, 32 years in the business. At work.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I contacted professional organizations and actually swine practitioners, or not swine practitioners, National Pork Council put me onto a couple articles. And I've done some exhaustive research myself. I'm the only researcher, I don't have a team or anything like that. And basically what I've found is there's a lot of anecdotal and op-ed pieces out there, but very little hard research done. I did find one study that was done out of Poland, and that's the one that I looked at here, okay? And I'll briefly outline the study and if I can go over some of the, I guess some of the results that were taken from that study.
Before you do, is that the preliminary studies on the reaction of throwing geese to the proximity of wind turbines?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and for the record, that's already been introduced into evidence as UCLC Exhibit 10, and I'll quit trying to bother you.
No, that's fine. So, short form here, this is a 12-week study on 2 groups of geese, 20 geese allocated to each group. One group placed at 50 meters from a wind turbine, and a second group placed at 500 meters from a wind turbine. Okay, so that's about 164 feet, 1,640 feet in the 2 groups here. So it's okay, I'm going to refer to them as Group 1 and Group 2. Group 1 being the closest group, and Group 2 being the farthest group. Measurements were taken in this study on weight gain, feed intake, as well as behavior on these geese, and they also measured cortisol levels. Okay, cortisol is a stress hormone produced and released in the body in response to stressors on animals. And they also checked noise levels of turbines at various distances in this study. So, briefly, the body weight measurements showed that the 2 groups were essentially same at the 5-week mark when they were introduced. By week 10, Group 1 was approximately 5% lower in feed intake, or excuse me, in body weight. And by week 17, they were 10% lower in body weight. As far as feed intake goes, they were essentially equal at week 5, but by week 10, Group 1 was eating 7% less feed, and by 17 weeks, they were eating 20% less feed than Group 2. So as far as the cortisol measurements, they were first measured at 48 hours after the animals were introduced. At that point, Group 1 showed a cortisol level that was 2 times the second group. At week 10, it was 3.5 times the second group. And at week 17, it was 2.7 times. So those are significantly high levels in these groups. The difference in these groups narrowed a little bit at the 17 week, that is 3.5 to 2.7, but both groups showed absolute increases in their cortisol. And I think the thing for me was that the close group kind of slowed down in their cortisol production, but the cortisol production of Group 2 at the farthest distance remained high, going up at the same rate as it had before. So the authors tried to explain that narrowing. They said that Group 1 may have been showing some acclimation to the turbines. But I would say that it looks like Group 2 doesn't show any acclimation, as their cortisol levels are increasing at the same rate that they did between weeks 5 and 10. As far as behavior of these geese goes, they found that the geese in Group 1 did not display normal movements. They tend to huddle together, didn't move around as much or anything like that. So the question is, okay, we're looking at geese here. What does that mean for us? And how does it apply to other animals, since we're not a large geese producing county here? Well, the biggest thing here is that cortisol is a hormone that's produced in all animals, including humans, and it's produced in response to stress. So it's plausible that we could see effects in other animals as well. I think other studies need to be done to confirm that. And like I said, this is just a preliminary study. It's the only one out there at this point. The other point is that, as opposed to humans, geese can't be misinformed as to potential adverse effects of wind turbines. And it's not known that they suffer from a nocebo effect. That is showing them pictures of windmills is going to make them behave adversely or anything like that. So I think we can assume that the cortisol measurements are genuine here, that they're a result of stress on the geese. And the other thing that we have to understand is that cortisol release in both animals and humans is an involuntary reaction. This isn't something that we can control or that geese can control. It's a natural response to a stress. I don't think I have much else.
couple things. I mean, you're not saying that you're not saying that you know that livestock will be affected one way or another, correct?
I'm saying it's plausible, but we don't have the data, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So it's a risk is really what we're talking
Sure.
about? Okay. And you're a local veterinarian in this area?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. I have nothing further.
Hello, members of the board. Do we have any questions? All right. School districts, local governments, anybody out there? All right. Applicants, council?
Just a few.
Okay.
Dr. Whitman, I'm a city boy, just like Mr. Lucanza, so you'll have to forgive me. What is a mixed animal practitioner?
That means I work on both large animals and small animals. So if either be cats, dogs, anything that has feathers, hair, or wool, I'm probably going to work on.
Would that include livestock?
Yes.
Hogs, cows,
You bet.
sheep? In terms of cortisol levels, have you seen any other studies in the last year that have assessed the effect of wind farms on human cortisol levels?
I don't necessarily read human research.
So you're not aware of that?
No.
Do you know an individual named Ted Conklin?
Yeah.
And who's Ted Conklin?
He's actually a friend from the Kempton area.
Do you recall in the recent past engaging in an online conversation with Mr. Conklin about the pluses and minuses of wind farms?
Yes.
I've handed you what's marked, Dr. Whitman, as Pleasant Ridge Exhibit 242. Could you just glance through that and let me know if in fact that's the online conversation that you recall with Mr. Conklin?
It could be.
Okay. It looks familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let me just for the record, Mr. Whitman, this is or is not a correspondence that you've had with Mr. Conklin.
Well, I haven't had a chance to compare it to my email at home, but I think this is a Facebook comment, so I haven't had a chance to compare that, so
Okay.
assuming it is.
Okay, all right, so we'll have to, I guess, allow that. All right. Interested parties from the audience, do you have any questions for Mr. Whitman? Carolyn?
I have no objection to this being going in evidence, so if there's any questions.
Okay, I just personally, or in this position, there's no source, there's no, if he can confirm that he did in fact write it, then I guess we allow it, and if not, we disallow it because there's...
How about this? Dr. Whitman's been coming to many of the hearings. If he feels in the next week or so, at the next set of hearings, that it's not, he can come back in and say it, and we can deal with it.
That's certainly acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I would want him to confirm that this is in fact the exchange. If he needs to go home and compare it to his Facebook account, that's certainly fine.
Sure, I'm just trying to keep the validity of evidence throughout this hearing at an equitable level.
Absolutely.
Okay, Carolyn. Please state your name for the record.
Carolyn Gerwin.
Thank you.
One of the previous experts said something about anecdotal evidence is kind of how they start deciding where to study, what things to study. So it does play a role in the process of scientific research. Would you agree with that?
I think it raises questions, and that leads to research, sure.
And I was just wondering, you mentioned that you had uncovered some anecdotal accounts, and could you describe maybe one or two or three of those?
For the sake of brevity, I probably stick to research here, with what we have here.
But how many did you come across?
I don't know.
More than 10?
Yeah, there's probably more than 10 out there.
And were they all different kinds of animals or one particular kind?
No, the ones that I read were all sorts of different animals, the ones that I read.
Were they news reports or what? How did you get a hold of these?
They were online searches that I did. So they were in different news sources, nothing in a referee journal or anything like that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other interested parties from the audience have any questions? Dr. Whitman? See anybody? County staff, any questions? All right. Oh yeah. All right. 7:37. Let's take. Sorry, Mr. Lucan's already finished with. Okay. All right. Dr. Whitman, thank you. 7:37. Present.
But before I do, there's a couple of things. We would like to introduce to evidence two exhibits. One, the first one there's no objection to. This is UCLC Exhibit 100. It's actually, he's already got it. It's Rob Moran's report. As you know, he's coming back to testify, I think most likely on the 9th. But he asked that we put this into evidence ahead of time so that everybody had it. The next one, I think Mr. Blazer does have an objection to this.
Actually, with respect to the RAND report, I've been looking at this. This witness hasn't testified yet. He's coming up. So there's no foundation for it yet. My suggestion would be that we admit it when he's here in just over a week.
I don't think I need to have anyone, given what we're doing in this, I don't think I have to set a foundation and have a witness come in to put any document in, and we've had that happen a number of times already in this hearing. He's going to come. If we do not bring him in for cross-examination and Mr. Blazer wishes to strike or tell you that you should limit it because he hasn't had the opportunity to cross-examine, obviously he can do that. But that only goes to the weight, it doesn't go to the admissibility.
I think it's completely inappropriate to admit the report of a witness until that witness has come in and testified and he's coming in a week and a half. So I think it's inappropriate. This isn't an issue of, first of all, any number of exhibits or questioning has been cut off when a witness hasn't been able to substantiate the authenticity of a particular document. I just think it's inappropriate. We have not done this in this proceeding where we've admitted a report from a hired expert before that expert has even been here to testify.
The entire application went into evidence before anybody came in to testify, and all of those reports came in with it.
This is inappropriate. There is no witness here to substantiate this thing. As I said, he's going to be here in a week and a half. I cannot see the need or the propriety of admitting a report from someone who hasn't been here yet.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. I do agree with the fact that the witness isn't here to pass judgment on this particular report. So, unfortunately for you, Mr. Blazer, you're going to exercise your opportunity not to review this prior to him coming in. Is that correct?
No, I've already. We're in the process of reviewing it. This report is the reason why we had to ask.
The only thing is I'm going to ask you to forfeit it. I'm going to ask you to forfeit the report. I'm going to hand mine back in. You're going to hand yours back in. And any part of this report, you're forfeiting the chance to review it. I mean, it actually is expeditious that you have it in hand.
I do have it. I got it Monday.
I understand that. But you don't want us to have it, so you can't have it either.
That's not the point, Mr. Cornell. I've provided all kinds of information to Mr. Luekehans as between the attorneys that none of you have seen. That's not the issue. The issue here is whether or not it should properly go into the record of this proceeding before the witness is here to talk about it, to submit it. It's not a question of whether or not Mr. Luekehans and I exchange information. I was getting all kinds of information that you've never seen going all the way back to November.
Okay, and there again, I promised the community that this hearing process was transparent. So any exchange between you somewhat breaches that. But I don't know what to do with this. I feel like you want the information to review beforehand. We can't have it, and the witness is coming to testify.
I'll withdraw the objection.
Okay. We'll formally accept it at the next time. We have it. Okay.
We also have, and I know Mr. Blazer again has an objection to this, UCLC Exhibit 101. Today, when I got to my office, I received the email, which is UCLC Exhibit 101 from Dr. Punch, who testified, I don't know, a week ago, 10 days, whatever it was, a week ago. He had a supplemental answer, or he wished to supplement one of his answers. This was unsolicited from me to one of the questions that he didn't feel that he answered fully. Again, he is coming back to testify. In the meantime, he had asked that I put this in evidence and that I provided this to you. I provided it to Mr. Blazer this evening, and we are asking that, again, this be put into evidence for the exact same reasons we talked about earlier.
But this one is different because Mr. Punch is in the middle of being cross-examined by me. And this is entirely new information. So this is a different situation from Rand, who I haven't even started questioning yet. So I think this absolutely has to wait until Mr. Punch comes back.
All I'm trying to do is give advance notice of this stuff, so we're not doing it when he comes in. I'm providing it to Mr. Blazer, providing it to this board, so that we are transparent and I'm opening ahead of the game instead of playing hide the ball.
This isn't an issue of hiding the ball or being transparent. This is an issue of someone trying to add information in the midst of cross-examination.
Okay. Here's where we're going to go with this. It appears that the question was raised by a ZBA member. We have the opportunity at any point to question the witness. What I will direct Mr. Lucan to do is have Mr. Punch, when he's back for cross-examination, I will ask him to formally read this correspondence so that it is within the record and it's authenticated by Mr. Punch reading it. So, I guess, okay, I'm not going to allow 101 at this time. Is that okay, Mr. Lupianza? Do you understand what the direction would be with that?
I completely understand, and we will enter it at that time. I just wanted everyone to have it ahead of time, and when that time comes, we will reintroduce it and put it in evidence if that's acceptable.
Okay, it just makes for a smoother process.
That's fine, Mr. Corral. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Next, just to be clear, Judy Campbell is going to testify. She's not, I wouldn't say she is our witness. She is a public interested person who wishes to testify and has been in contact with us. I knew tonight was the night that she could testify, so we advised her that this would be a good evening. Just so that
Yeah, that would be fine. You may have questions. Because you're introducing her, you may have some questions on her.
That's my point.
Okay, Mr. Blazer may have, we all may have.
Just so we're clear, because Ms. Campbell is on the sign-up list,
Okay.
I'm assuming this is her shot. She doesn't get to come back twice.
I don't know that anyone wants to come back twice.
Right. Yeah, that would be a correct statement. She is on the list. She will get her opportunity to provide testimony this evening. So, with that, Ms. Campbell, could you come forward for us, please?
And to be of assistance, I think she has 5 exhibits that I think are sitting up on the stage. You guys already have them? Okay.
Yeah, they've already been distributed. So, okay. Ms. Campbell, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please state your name and address for our court reporter?
Judy Campbell, 28816 North, 800 East Road, Manville, Illinois. That's one end. 61319.
All right. Either Mr. Lucan or myself, we can just direct you to go ahead. Okay, Judy, you may go ahead and start.
Good evening. I'm I'm here as the president of the Livingston County Environmental Association. Exhibit 1 that you have in front of you is a health survey that our organization conducted in the summer of 2011. I'll give you a little history. Livingston County Environmental Association has a mission statement to protect the health, welfare, and natural resources of Livingston County. The history is that we were formed in 2003. I was not a member at that time. In the aftermath of the Livingston landfill expansion, it's a 100% volunteer charitable organization. Some other things that we have done is we did a radon survey, a cancer study, we assist with Earth Day events, and we have been having an annual river cleanup for a few years now. Okay, in the health study, which is Exhibit 1, and then Exhibit 2 would be a map that we kind of omitted from the survey when we printed it. We surveyed 2 different areas. One was within the footprint of the, if you don't mind, I'll just call it Cayuga Ridge project. And we had a control group of people that we surveyed in another area of the county, and the map kind of shows down by Chenoa, down by Route 24, that would be where the control group area is. And I think this is important right now because it's a health survey. Well, we actually published it as a pilot survey because if we did it again, we might change a few things. But we hired an intern. We went down to the job fair at Illinois State University, and we wound up with an intern. And I can't remember what her major was in college, but she was actually a Wesleyan student. Very bright, very professional, and she was directed by us to make sure that the survey would be as unbiased as possible. And we did help with the design, but she designed the survey in such a way that we started out with very general questions. We didn't introduce, it was done face to face. They drove around to people's homes. And so the first part of the survey was asking general questions about health, and then it drilled down more into specific symptoms that people might have experienced, and finally asked some more general environmental questions. And in fact, there was a question in there about how well they understood the zoning process. So that's kind of interesting too. So I think it's important because it's a study that was done right here in our county. It was people living inside the power plant. And I guess it's a kind of an obvious fact that there's no other electricity source that I know of where people are living inside a power plant. This is important and it's relevant right now. Wind plant residents in the study were more likely than control group respondents to report a number of symptoms, including heart palpitations, fatigue, anxiety, sleep disturbances, migraines, depression, vertigo, nausea, menstrual changes, and other reproductive problems. Within the wind power plant, people living nearer to turbines reported more symptoms than those living farther away. 63% of the wind plant respondents, wind study respondents that were living inside the power plant had signed either a lease or a good neighbor agreement and were less likely to report concerns. It's a fairly lengthy study. Most of the graphs you'll see are expressed in percentages. And then Exhibit 3 would be the press release that the Environmental Association did when we presented this report to the Ag and Zoning Committee of Livingston County in October of 2012. That was the same meeting where the avian mortality study was presented, so we thought that would be a good time. Okay, I'm going to go on to, I can see you're still taking a look. Could I move on to Exhibit 4? Okay, well, the summer we did the study, I went to the assessor's office and I got the addresses of the residential properties to help the study, and I still had that on my computer last year, and it was before any of this came up, but I was wondering if we did the study again, would we be talking to the same people? So I looked at the assessor's website again and identified a number of properties that had actually changed ownership. So it seems like whenever you get a little bit of information, it just raises more questions. So I drilled down even further, and at the end of it all, I was able to find some very, I think, pertinent information here as to, you know, the whole purpose of the survey was to answer the question, after all is said and done, how did those people, how was it for them? You know, that's the whole purpose of doing it. How did it turn out over there? So, anyway, what I've done is I've given you a spreadsheet that's sorted by the year built, and the last pages, beginning with page 4, I kind of tried to stratify it by 5-year periods since 1950. And what I discovered was that there was only one 5-year period since 1950 that there were no new homes built. And there was a second period where we've had no new homes built again. So since the turbines went up, there's been no new construction. Also, there have been a few homes removed. And every home that was sold belonged to a non-participant. And about half of the homes that were removed from the assessors, you know, just demolished, belonged to participating landowners. I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, since the turbines went up, there's been no new construction of homes. And my fear is that once turbines go up, that's the last development in that area of almost any kind. I've seen a number of new machine sheds out there. Of the homes that sold since we did the survey, there were 3 that were parceled off from farms. So, but the other thing I checked out was of the homes that sold, how long had the people owned them? And so I found that most of the homes that were sold had been purchased this century. They're being sold by people who are relative newcomers. And if you can't retain your newcomers, I don't know how your community's going to grow. So I counted 24 houses, there might have been more, that sold since October of 2001. And then of those, 8 sold after the turbines, plus the 3 subdivided from the farms were sold. But it's just, it's just something that I dug into, it just turned up. So I hope it's helpful to you. And then Exhibit 5 is a graph showing enrollment in the Odell School over the years. And the reason that came up is because back in 2005, I think it was, I had a conversation with the principal over at Odell, because people were saying these wind turbines are good for schools, and I called him up to find out what was their financial status. And he said they were doing pretty good, but he said his biggest problem was he was having more families moving into the district. He told me, if I get one more 6th grader, I'm going to have to add a classroom. And you can see on the graph by years that enrollment seems to have peaked at 196 in 2008. I got this information from the Illinois State Board of Education. They have a thing called an e-report card. And the blue line on the bottom just indicates that there's been growth in low-income students, but I think that's pretty common across the county. So, but if you look at, in those first several years, enrollment grew 30%. And since then, it's declined 13%. So, I guess I just want to bring that forward just to tell you, or to ask you, is this really good for communities? If people are leaving, if school enrollment's declining, I can't tell you the 100% of the cause is the wind turbines, but I also can tell you during that time of growth, Odell didn't spend one dime on capital improvements. And they didn't spend anything until now they have the money, during a period of decline. And they're using the money because it's there. So that pretty much concludes my remarks.
Fellow ZBA members, do you guys have any questions? Ms. Campbell? Anything? John, you have anything? All right. School districts, local government. Anybody out there? Questions? Applicants Council?
Yes, sir, thank you. Ms. Campbell, you said you're the president of the LCEA?
Yes, sir.
Who are the other officers?
We have currently 5 officers. Our vice president is Phyllis Ryan. She's a former director of the Red Cross. Our treasurer is Julie Russell, a farmer's wife and bank employee. Our secretary is Carolyn Gerwin. And then we have Gary Norris, who is a teacher.
And Ms. Gerwin was the president of the organization?
She was president for 7 years.
When did you take over?
When she had to plan a wedding for her daughter.
When was that?
2011.
So right around the time that this survey was conducted?
Yes, yes.
It's true, isn't it, that you've been an opponent of wind energy for many years?
I like to think of myself as a preserver of rural beauty.
Well, you believe that wind farms don't work and they're junk, isn't that right?
I've said that. Well, I was quoted in the paper saying that. Sometimes it's not always accurate.
Is it accurate?
Yeah, it won't work.
Okay. Now, you said you presented this survey, and I know you called it a health survey, but there wasn't a doctor involved in this, right?
No.
Okay. And you presented this to the County Board's Ag and Zoning Committee in October 2012?
Yes, sir.
And if I wrote this down correctly, you found an intern at ISU?
Yeah, but she's a Wesleyan student. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you don't recall what her major is, or what?
I think it was political science. But she was really good at designing the survey. She guided us very, very well. And,
how many of these had she done before?
I probably did, I don't know, I was part of the interview process, but...
No, I mean, how many of these surveys had this intern done before?
This survey?
Yeah.
Well, they learned how to do the surveys as part of their studies.
Right. So had she ever actually done a survey like this before this one?
It was, yeah, I mean, that was part of the interview process, is to find out if someone had any experience doing surveys in general, you know, just...
So she had never done an environmental health survey before?
No.
Okay. And had she ever done a survey involving wind farms?
No.
Had she ever done any kind of a survey involving anecdotal evidence regarding health effects from any cause?
I'm not sure what kind of surveys she did before.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
But she was the one who helped design it, and then she was one of the people that drove around to people's houses and asked the questions. She compiled all the data.
And then I believe you said that you and Ms. Gerwin also had input into the survey, is that correct?
Yes, we had some.
Okay. Now, these people that you survey that you say claim these impacts, if you know, did any of them ever report these health impacts to the county's public health department?
You know, that's really not the job of the health department to take complaints like that. The health, we'd ask Melinda Hillman about that. They have a lot of things to do, having to do with administering programs to people. That's real. I mean, they do wellness clinics. They manage funds from the federal government and the state government as far as collecting data on health issues other than what is under their mission. That wouldn't be something people would do. If I was having a problem, I'd talk to my physician.
Okay.
I don't think I'd talk to the health department.
And did this intern or you or Ms. Gerwin talk to any of these people's physicians?
No. In fact, we have we protected the identity of all the respondents. Only Ms. Huden and the other person that helped her even could connect a face with a name and an address. It's all protected and locked up in the lawyer's office.
So I assume nobody reviewed these people's medical histories?
And that wasn't part of the survey.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some flaws in the survey.
No, that's... I know you, and I assume it's based on your experience in county government, but regardless of whether or not you think the public health department would be the right place for people to submit complaints, do you know if anybody in fact submitted any complaints to the health department?
I'm told they did not.
Do you know if any of them submitted, we heard today that complaints have been submitted to the zoning and planning department for effects on TV reception. Do you know if any of these people submitted complaints to the zoning and planning department about these claimed health effects?
Okay, with this particular wind farm, there is a complaint process in place, and there's a phone number at the operations building that says, for emergencies, call blah, blah, blah. It's not really billed as a complaint hotline, it's billed as and I don't know how well-informed people are as to who to call, because you could call, I mean, if you have a barking dog, right now problem, you can call either Chuck or you can call the health department. But I don't think people are very well informed on it. I think it needs a lot of work. And there was a report submitted in 2011 of the complaints. According to the special use, they're supposed to give Chuck's office a report monthly. As far as I know, they've only submitted a report once to Chuck's office, and it had to do with, well,
I'm not, right now I'm not talking about Iberdrola.
I didn't put that in that minutes.
I'm not talking about Iberdrola. I'm asking if you know, and we'll add the complaint hotline in a second, but do you know whether any of these people who this intern or you or Ms. Gerwin interviewed?
We did not interview them.
I'm
We
sorry,
didn't talk
then
to
this intern, do you know if any of these people that this intern interviewed who said they had problems with the wind farm, whether any of them submitted any complaints to the zoning planning department?
Objection Foundation, I mean, she's here.
If she don't, I asked her if she knows.
She's already, how is she supposed to know what someone did to the health department?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a complaint filed by a Curdy family, but I don't know if they were one of the families that was interviewed.
Okay.
I know they lived there. There were complaints filed, and I can't recall if it had to do with the construction period and the dust, or if it was noise, or whatever. But there were complaints filed.
That's all you know, what you just...
Mr. Blazer,
Yeah.
just to
I'll go back.
page 11 of 1. Have you ever called this company hotline? Are you aware of the existence of company phone hotline? All those complaint issues are there in that table.
I apologize, Mr. Graham.
No, it's okay.
I've never seen it before, so...
We didn't have very, I did happen to see that as I was flipping through,
Okay.
so.
But I don't know the identity of who responded.
And do you agree with Ms. Gerwin that your survey is considered statistically insignificant?
Any survey done with a small population would be statistically what that word?
Statistically, it was her words, but do you agree with her that this survey is considered statistically
Yeah,
insignificant?
and we came up we had that problem with the cancer study too, because it's a rural population. So, but that doesn't mean, since there's few people, that they don't matter.
And I'm not suggesting that, but would you agree with this statement? The LCEA hopes that the survey can be administered to other wind projects so that enough data is gathered to permit experts to reach statistically significant conclusions regarding the health impacts of industrial wind energy projects.
That's in our press release, yes.
Okay. It's also correct that you have opposed the extension of the production tax credit, is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And your reason for that is that it's your position that the production tax credit is a federal policy that subsidizes wind energy development regardless of where it is sited or the time of day and year when it produces electricity. Is that correct?
Is that?
That's a letter you signed.
That's a letter I signed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Other interested parties in the audience that may have some questions for Ms. Campbell. Mr. Lukens, you go ahead.
I'm sorry, I do have a couple of questions, not very many.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Hold your questions out there, we'll get right to you.
I know it kind of got messed up of who was actually presenting, so
Yeah, okay.
I apologize. You said there were a few homes removed.
Yes.
Do you know how many that was? Approximately. I don't know if it's in the study. I'm just trying to get it.
If you look at the ones that are highlighted in green, that would be the ones that are removed or abandoned. And I had this non-farm building value that's also highlighted in green. That's now 0 for all of those except the one that was just abandoned.
So approximately 6, I'm just looking for green.
Yeah.
Approximately 6 were either removed or abandoned.
Maybe more like 5, because I've got the one that was sold to Housing and Urban Development also highlighted in green. So I expect that assessed value. I don't know how they tax that.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm looking off your press release, which I think is Exhibit 3.
Yeah.
It says in there on the second page, first full paragraph, that the following concerns were experienced by at least 25% of the respondents: nuisance, noise, negative impact on farmland, impact from flickering shadows, and interference with communications.
Yes.
That's what the study found?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the study going to page 1 of the executive summary of the study, which is Exhibit 1. It says, as compared to 66.7% of the control group, 81.1% of respondents exposed to wind farms reported experiencing at least one of the common wind farm concerns surveyed.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what your survey found?
Yes.
Okay, and then if I went to page 5 of that, that shows the symptoms.
Yes, that's a list of symptoms.
Okay, and those are very similar to the ones, you weren't here for Dr. Punch's testimony, right?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. They're pretty much the same. Okay. And then of those same symptoms we're talking about, page 8 says that in nearly all cases, the exposed group had more reported experiences with symptoms at each level. That's what your survey found?
Yes.
Okay, I have nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other interested parties in the audience? Have any questions? Anybody? Any other members of the board with a question? County, anything? All right, Ms. Campbell, thank you. Yeah. County will accept Campbell Exhibit 1 as the Livingston County Environmental Association Environmental Health Survey Pilot Project. County will accept Campbell Exhibit 2 as a project vicinity map with a demarcation of a control group area. The county will accept Campbell Exhibit 3 as the Livingston County Environmental Association news release. The county will accept Campbell Exhibit 4 as a 6-page, 3-page front and back of Streeter Cayuga Ridge South Residence Sorted Internship Survey spreadsheet dated 11/25/2014. County will accept Campbell Exhibit 5 as the Odell District 435 enrollment as taken from the Illinois State Board of Education e-report card as indicated in testimony. All right. Mr. Lukans, that was everybody on your list, is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, can we just as a housekeeping matter, there was a few other exhibits that we might want to catch up on that are on the last list that I provided, the ones that we brought in during Mr. Groon's cross-exam. I don't think you...
Okay, that is correct. Yeah. Those are not in. We'll get them next time. It had to do something with, I don't know, they're probably in my stack right here, and we could probably, but I might miss one, so let's get a consolidated version, then I'll take them all at once.
You got it.
Okay, we've accepted them, we just haven't formally taken them in. Okay. why don't we look to the audience at this point? Are there any other interested parties? Actually, we can start on the list. We'll look to the list. If we get to you and you absolutely aren't prepared to speak this evening, we can skip past and we'll continue down the list. All right, there are some individuals that have signed up that are represented by council. So I guess the process then would be council would have to actually call them up and put them through a battery of questions. If you just signed up, he could call you up and ask you to present whatever, but you would be his witness. So with that, I'll start at Terry Nauer. Knauer, I'm sorry.
I have a quick question.
Quick question, go ahead.
You said that like the people that go there get one shot. Because I thought there was like, at the end, you can do a summary.
That wasn't clear.
Yeah.
When you present testimony, you can do a closing statement.
Okay. So you,
What, we didn't hear that.
Okay, we're getting this clarified. If you've presented testimony, you will have the opportunity to have a closing statement at the end of the procedure.
Just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, the rule provides that the closing statement cannot introduce any new evidence.
That is correct, and that is said to all parties. When we get to the point of closing statements, no additional paperwork comes across our desk. So present it now during the testimony stage of this hearing. You get it into us. You have one opportunity to present the evidence.
you can also do a closing statement if you just question witnesses, correct?
No. If your opportunity to question witnesses is, if we've excused the witness from the hearing, you've missed your opportunity to question that witness.
That's not what he's asking.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think what he's asking is, if you haven't given testimony, you can still do a closing, you can still provide or make public comment at the end? No? I thought everybody had the right to do public comment at the end, no matter what. That's
Right, they can make a statement. If they make a statement, they will be allowed to make a closing statement. But they have to, at this phase of the hearing, they have to come forward and either present evidence or make a statement.
make a statement of some kind, even if it's not. I guess, I mean, we're making this more confusing, I think, because one step is testimony, and these people are saying they don't want to testify, but they do want to make a public statement, and I think they have that absolute right.
Right. Correct.
Even if they didn't testify, correct? I mean, I guess the question is, they need to know whether you wanted to make their public statements now or at the end, which was I thought we all thought we were doing.
All right. The other night when we were talking about getting to this particular stage of proceedings, I understood that what we're going to do, like tonight, would be people who wanted to present evidence or testimony would go first. And then the people who just wanted to make a statement, while they would be sworn, could make a statement. And the people who present evidence or testimony and make a statement would be allowed to make a closing statement. Is that clarified?
Okay, so anybody, when we get to that point, excuse me, when we get to that point, I'll just yell. When we get to that point, so anybody who wants to make a public statement, even if it's not testimony, can come in and testify at any of these hearings when the time is right. I don't think anybody, I think a lot of people aren't ready tonight because no one is really.
We understand that.
But, so their public statement should come in at that stage and not at the closing statement. So we're having testimony, public statement, and then at the end, closing statement of just the people who are participants. Is that how this is handled?
Right.
Okay. I hope if anybody doesn't understand it, please come to me and I'll try and help.
Okay, so what we're trying to get at is we want to get the testimony. That's evidence, that's bringing in details, that's all that. We want to get that taken care of, all right? If you're involved in that part of the hearing, you will have one additional time a closing statement to speak again. All right. If you don't have testimony and you would like to just have a public comment, we'll accept that. We're going to try to do those at the very end, okay? And you will not have a closing statement. If you give a public comment without testimony, you will not have the opportunity to have a closing statement, okay? And the closing statements will work in reverse order. So the last person that testifies will give a closing statement, and Mr. Blazer will have the opportunity to give the last closing statement that will be given will be that of Mr. Blazer if he so chooses. All right. Is everybody? All right. That's fine. That's fine. I want to hash this out. Let's get this taken care of. Okay. If you have testimony, evidence, factual data, more than just an opinion, that is a testimony. You're sworn in. You will come up here. Hold on. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. That's a good. We're going to get this formally taken care of. Official advice from council and the decision. What we're going to do. Testimony and public comment are all in one the same. All right. Testimony and public comment. In order to make public comment, though, you will be sworn in, and at that time you will also be subject to cross-examination by ourselves, everybody that I normally go through. All right? That will also give you the opportunity to make a closing statement at the end. Unless you have been called to testify by counsel or represented by counsel. So, is that clear? I want to make sure that everybody understands this. We're here to give everybody the opportunity to speak. All right? So public comment, it can be unsubstantiated, whatever you'd like to say, you still will be sworn in. And you will be subject to cross-examination, just so that everybody understands that. And along with that, you will have the opportunity to give a closing statement. Do I have any questions? I really want to get this taken care of. Go ahead, I want to hear your question.
People that spoken before now, that were not sworn in, will you do summarize if they're not?
But they have to be sworn. You have to be sworn in. Basically, to participate in closing arguments, you have to be sworn in, okay, and not represented by counsel.
Is everybody that spoke here so far, have they been sworn in?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Can I? No. People just ask questions.
Individuals often asking questions were not sworn in. They were asked to identify themselves. Any other questions? All right. With that, we'll open the forum up to the discussion that we talked about. Terry Knauer. Ms. Knauer, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Terry Knauer, Rural Route, Fairbury, Avoca Township.
All right, Ms. Knauer, just to clarify, we have you indicated as being represented by counsel.
True.
Okay. With that, counsel, I'll give you your witness.
Ms. Knauer, I know you have a statement you wish to make. Please feel free.
Oh, well, I'm glad everything was settled. I think I understand. The first part of my statement is I'm testifying, and hopefully everyone will follow. The second part of it is my statement and how I feel, I guess. There are many disturbing concerns with industrial wind turbines. I will focus on a couple of these from my perspective and why these projects need to be stopped. First, I will address when the footprint map was made available. Thanks to my kids for a computer and help with it from family, I noticed that my house and some neighbors as well are not even showing on the map. So what does this mean? High voltage overhead transmission wires and towers are showing running right by my property, as well as buried underground collection wires. Intentional by Invenergy, so some engineer up on Chicago's Wacker Drive can complete the project for its destination to the ComEd substation at McDowell, 3 miles from our neighborhood. I encourage everyone to look at huge towers and wires already located around Livingston County as you are traveling around Pontiac and McDowell area. Then I find out our Livingston County Ag Zoning Board has nothing in its ordinance for safe distance to live from high voltage wires. Studies everywhere now show more and more evidence of the harmful effects, cancer, leukemia, Lou Gehrig's disease, etc., from radiation and EMF exposure from high voltage electric wires. I have been consulted with many different licensed electricians and their sources on this health safety hazard. One recommendation was live a distance of 2 miles. Another recommendation, live as far away as possible. Would you want to live 500 feet from those wires? Haven't we lost too many friends and relatives to cancer? And I've heard so many stories about underground stray voltage and electric shocks. Also showing on the footprint map, I have 5 industrial turbines around my small acreage. It will not be healthy for anyone, human or animal, to live there, and my children and grandchildren had hoped to move there someday. My home of 39 years is my refuge, peace and quiet in the country. I'm not understanding how Invenergy wind people can be allowed to rearrange our land for something so evil around our homes of many, many decades. The second part of this is my statement and my feelings. The other issue dear to me is wildlife affected by these industrial turbines. Invenergy bird and bat study left out info to the citizens. No one from Invenergy in 8 years has knocked on my door to study birds in my area, or for that matter, ask my opinion about anything with this project. Living out there all of these years, I have worked at creating wildlife habitat in my area and attracting them to my backyard. On any given spring, summer, or fall morning, I can listen to at least a half-dozen different songbirds. Bald eagles, Canada geese, mallard ducks, blue herons, and countless other birds are observed in our area. Those will all be affected by industrial turbines. Seems like a very long time ago, but Monday night, the first night of these hearings, after listening to windy people for 3 hours, I drove home from Pontiac and in the dark with a 0-degree wind chill, chopped ice and got the pond heater going on my little goldfish garden pond, that of which I hand dug myself 20 years ago and maintain year-round for birds and other wildlife. That is how passionate I am. Wildlife needed to survive. I assume a lot of folks here have family pets. 1, for their own enjoyment, and 2, the responsibility to help those cats, dogs, horses, etc. have a long, healthy life. I do not have those. I put my time and resources into nature and backyard habitat. I am now a nature lover and bird watcher, learning from my husband, a conservationist. I am doing my part to take care of God's creations in his land. Pretty sure a lot of those city people do not even know what a cardinal is, which is our Illinois state bird, or birdhouses, or prairie grass cover is. We are not going to Chicago to change their lifestyles and living environment, and they should not be allowed to march in here and prey on the ignorance of some farmers and landowners. Having been born and raised a couple of miles from Wayne in Pleasant Ridge Township, and being the nostalgic, sentimental person that I am, it breaks my heart to have these so-called old friends and neighbors involved in this corruption. Some of these folks I went through FSW schools with. They were patrons in my hair salon and were neighborhood family. I am praying that when this terrible tragedy in our community is over and done, Invenergy crawls out of here and we can all forgive and find more businesses to create good, honest jobs, because people will want to move into this area to live without industrial turbines. If there are any questions.
Ms. Knauer, I have a couple of quick questions. Sure. How far are these high voltage wires from your house, do you know?
I measured off the other day borings. I have not officially been informed of anything. I just watch and watch them all working all these months, watching the big equipment, borings. The one hole that I did measure off is about 500 feet for one of those towers.
Okay.
Another one, I didn't go to that one.
Okay. And you said you live on a small acreage. How big is your property?
1.5 acres.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
Fellow members of the board, do we have any questions for Ms. Knauer? John? All right. Local government out there. All right. Applicants, council?
No questions.
All right. Other interested parties in the audience, I would like to ask Ms. Knauer any questions? See any?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yep. Go on up, state your name.
I've got one question for you. State your name. Kelly Kennett, Fairview, Illinois. Question I had for you is, if this did somehow get pushed through and developed, and coming and going home at night, if it did become unbearable for you to live in your home, would you sell?
Who would buy it, Mr. Kennett? Who would live there?
Next question would be is, would you sell it at reduced cost just to move it if you couldn't live in your home?
Yes, I'd have to.
If, hypothetically, if the wind, if it's true that the government does suspend the subsidies and the wind turbines were to go under, who's going to decommission them? And would the landowners be responsible for decommissioning these? That's the question that I've got. How are we going to do it?
All right, Mr. Kennedy. Unfortunately, that does exceed the scope of her statements.
I wasn't prepared.
All right. It's hard to testify. You haven't seen all that information. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? All right. County staff, anything? Ms. Knauer, thank you. Next individual that appears on our list is Carol Knapp. Carol Knapp available this evening. She's in Florida. All right. Harvey W. Zier Jr. Not prepared to speak this evening. Okay. Dan Bieck. Is he with us this evening? All right. Nate Kelson. Nate Kelson. All right. George Bush. C-H. B-U-S-C-H. Must have really messed that one up. Oh well. Okay. Patrick Harms. Patrick Harms.
Mr. Chairman, the Harms family had a death in the family today. They may be back.
Okay, all right. We certainly will reserve that opportunity. Brent Johnston. Terry Cope. Mark Aberly. All right, Mr. Aberly. Mr. Aberly, if you can make your way up there, sworn in. Will do. Mr. Aberly, could you please raise your right hand? You do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth, or that you suffer the pains and penalties of perjury? All right. Can you please state your name and address for the report?
Mark Aberly. Chatsworth, Illinois.
All right. Mr. Aberly, if you could speak closer to the mic so everybody can hear you. And I know it's difficult. You may proceed.
I guess I have one question, and then I guess I'd like to just kind of give you my feelings on some of it. It all kind of runs together. I missed a lot of the meetings. If this is something that's been covered, just fill me in. I don't understand, how does all this get funded? Where's all this money come from? To build all these turbines, to do all this here that we're doing now? Is it a good investment? I'm not sure who to ask.
Okay. Within the record and testimony, that would appear some financial questions. The best thing right now is if you have feelings or testimony or thoughts that you'd like to share with us, you're more than welcome to do that. The particulars of the finance have been previously discussed. You may talk to some friends, neighbors, and that have attended, and they'll kind of give you the logistics on that.
Okay.
Okay, hold short.
One other thing I would mention, transcripts of the proceedings are online on the county website, so you can go back and read from page 1 all the way through to find out information. Hopefully would answer your questions.
Okay. My comments is myself and 3 of our sons live within or very near the footprint of this wind farm. I know there was a lot of testimony given on property values, how they would not devalue your property, how it may even go up, but with all due respect, I don't believe any of it. As this all progressed, I went into where a lender that I use, and I asked him, about that, and he don't believe it either. So that kind of puts us in a fix, if you live on. My home is my biggest investment. If I can, if it does lose value, he's the one that holds the bag. If I have to borrow money, or my sons do, just saying, well, you're fine, that's not very comforting, It has to actually come from the lender and stuff. And also, as far as the wind turbines, they seem so invasive to our landscape. And that's a big, to me, a common sense would say that your location your view would have a direct effect on the value of your home. I live in the country for a reason. I don't spend my evenings in front of a TV screen or a computer. I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy the night sky. I enjoy the sunrises, the sunsets. And when you try to look through a maze of turbines, or at nighttime when you have red flashing lights, I drove up to the Odell Wind Farm and tried to imagine what it would be like. It's not very attractive. I know that's just a personal thing, but to me it's very important. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Questions from the applicant?
No, sir.
Mr. Lukens? All right. ZBA members, do we have any questions? Okay. All right. School board members, local government. All right. Interested parties not represented by council. Anybody out there? All right. County staff. You have anything? All right. Mr. Everly, thank you. Thank you. Next individual that appears on our list is Carolyn Gerwin. Carolyn, not prepared. Okay. Next individual, John A. Slagle.
Not prepared.
Okay. Amber L. Severson. Yes. Okay. Here's what I'll do. Mr. Lukens, can you logistically work this out so that we're in Pontiac? Okay. So Mr. Lukens will call you to testify. That way you'll get put on a list so that we can very specifically get that in Pontiac in the right venue. Okay. Thank you. Warren Gillette. Adam Followell.
He's at work.
All right. Kelly Kinnett.
That list went too fast.
Well,
You're not ready? I'm always. We waited too long.
all right. Mr. Kinnett, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now and hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Kelly Kenneth, 312 West Chestnut Street, Fairbury, Illinois.
All right. Very good. Mr. Kinnett, you may proceed with your remarks.
Like so many of us that are here in attendance tonight, we care about our families, we care about our farms and the legacy. When Invenergy first came to my office in July of last year, they put a map on my desk and asked me what I thought. At that point in time, I hadn't even seen or heard anything, and I said, that depends. Is it self-sustaining, or is it something that has to run off the subsidies or off the taxpayers? It was a pretty short visit, but over the next 2 weeks, I at least got to hear other folks in the community talking, and, well, they heard this, they heard that. So I took that opportunity to go to the Ag Zoning Committee meeting over in Pontiac on August 5th. As a precinct committeeman, I try to keep a little bit of a pulse of what's going on in our community. In that way, I spoke before the Ag Zoning Board, let them know I was there, hoping to become informed. And be a little bit better representation for our community. At that night, on the agenda, they did have to discuss the wind farm ordinance. They allowed, I think there was 9 speakers that night, took approximately 45 minutes. Afterwards, we were thanked for our time, and we could go ahead and go if we wanted to. About 2/3 of the room left. About 15 to 20 people stayed behind because they'd seen on the agenda, which I didn't happen to have in front of me, that they still had the ordinance to discuss. Needless to say, before the meeting was adjourned, one of the county board members on the Ag Zoning asked about the ordinance being discussed, and he was told that they weren't going to discuss it. It'd been a waste of their time, and they moved to adjourn. So a lot of us were downstairs, outside the courthouse, and of course that buzz got around pretty quick to the point that the next Thursday was going to be the full county board meeting, at which time I think approximately 200 citizens from over this part of the county were there, and they wanted to know what was going on. And at that point in time, even though Invenergy was in the winds about filing a potential petition, people were voicing their concerns then. At which time the county board, I can't remember if it was Tom Blakeman or not, but at some point somebody, as an elected official, said, well, we can't discuss or change the ordinance today out of fear that Invenergy could sue us if we were to update or make changes to our zoning now. At that particular meeting, they had a vote among the county board members to have a follow-up special meeting to discuss having a special zoning meeting to discuss the review of the ordinance. And the county board voted in favor of that, and then that was the following Thursday. Bottom line is, I'm 4th generation on a small family farm. Took a 5-acre hayfield a couple of years ago. I put 4 outbuildings on there. I've got it fenced in for cattle. As I drive home to my family farm to do chores at night, I look off to the north. I see the blinking lights over there towards the Sonneman, Odell, QD Ridge Wind Farm. I look off to the south. I see the blinking lights over there at the wind farms there along Route 9. I don't know what it's going to be like to try to drive home at night and have nothing but blinking lights on either side of me if this were to get shoved through. When I asked our county board members before, the reports that I got were, we need the tax revenue. This isn't the answer for a heavily populated community. Don't sell out our family farms and our communities for some short-term tax revenue when the government's already talking about cutting subsidies for these subsidized wind farms anyway. The question that we need to be asking ourselves, if for any reason, if Invenergy or any other wind farm were to pull out tomorrow or a couple of years from now, who's going to pay the decommissioning? Is that escrow going to be there? I heard some testimonial regarding, they were talking about, well, you can go ahead and you can decommission them and sell them for scrap. The lowball figures that we were given don't even come close. And I'm not even in the construction trade and I know better. One of the things that I found most unsettling as I attended the hearings and people asked questions was, when Invenergy gave their testimonial, they only would give you the positive side. At one night I asked Dr. Loomis, who was up front about the $900,000 study that he gets from Invenergy, he said there were no downsides of the wind farms. Well, we both know that common sense is that in a situation like this, you're going to have the compaction, you're going to have the broken tiles. I spent all day on a computer today doing research, pulling up different stuff. If you type in wind turbine syndrome or wind farm malfunctions, I mean, the internet is just loaded with a lot of data out there, and it does happen. And I find that I'm very offended when I feel we're being deceived and only going to be given the positive side, but it's going to be some cash flow. It'll be good for your community. Well, we already know from Dr. Loomis that it will impact our school districts, it will impact our communities, and I don't want us to be like Ridgeview. I don't want us to be like the other wind farm down towards Clipston there, that they're already in fiscal trouble, and that's after they got their big money from the wind farms. At the end of the day, do some soul searching and do the right thing. We shouldn't even be here tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Kennett, just for the record, I just wanted to put this in. You are represented by Mr. Lukens, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Mr. Lukens, did you have any questions for him? Okay. ZBA members, do we have any questions for Mr. Kennett? No? All right. Mr. Blazer? No, sir. Question? All right. Units of local government, school districts, any questions? All right. Interested parties in the audience that would have questions for Mr. Kennett? See? County staff, do we have any questions? All right. Mr. Kennett, thank you.
Thank you.
Next individual on our list is Lance Yetnock.
I'm unprepared.
Okay.
We can have this night. Okay, if I wait till the next time.
Yep. Glenn Schroff. Glenn Schroff. Glenn Schroff. Are you prepared to speak this evening?
Thank you, young man. I have a profound hearing loss.
That's all right. I understand. Well, it's easier to take a little nap, isn't it? All right. Mr. Schroff, if we can get you to go up there and I'm going to swear you in, okay? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this case now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Can you please state your name and address for our court reporter?
I'm Glenn Schroff from Rural Forest.
Mr. Schroff, you may go ahead.
Goes like this. I'd like to commend the committee, in particular their slogan on getting informed, because I wasn't that way. This thing was passing on around me and I didn't know there was such a thing as a Prairie Central or a Pleasant Ridge wind farm. But I quickly got informed, and I've been informed of wind farms for most of my life. It goes like this. I'm an old military man, an instructor. I like a demonstration. It's the best way to present this thing. I have on my farm both a solar generator, which is one of those little idiot lights that you put on your wife's grave, and I have a small windmill with a bicycle generator that generates electric power. The windmill is very high maintenance, and it's down right now. It's down most of the time, as will be your wind farm if you put it here in the county. That is a given. I live on a farm that had a wind generator. Some of the people in this room may know of this. Most of you are too young. But in 1926, the farm that I live on was electrified by a wind power generator. I'm the last active farm in the county to have received REA energy in 1960, after we had the wind generator for 40 years or more. Hadn't had, well, the moral of the story was it wasn't paid for yet. And they could have bought the electric power. This is a true story. They could have bought the electric power from CIPS, now Ameren, down at the corner for $1.50 a month. But he elected to build a wind power generator, state of the art, with batteries that I had in my house later moved to the garage with steam pipes out there to heat them. Now, we're still playing with $1.50 a month. And then he had this big potatoes thing like you folks are going to have with this wind farm, a big potatoes thing, putting out about this much energy. The energy produced today by all renewable sources amounted to, before last year, in my reading, 1%, costing everyone in this room 20% of your light bill. Not a very good trade. That has now advanced to 3% of the power that you use, costing you 25%. The reason being that natural gas has come down considerably and they can generate power with that. This thing goes back to me asking one of my neighbors a few years ago, it was so hot you couldn't breathe on a July day, and he was getting involved in the wind farm, and I said, what would you do on a day like today? We needed a little power for air conditioning. I said, are you going to call that guy over in Pekin and have him walk, or in Peoria, and have him walk down to Pekin and start that coal generator? Because that's where we get our power from. But they shut down this morning to accommodate this wind farm, because federal regulations say they should do that. Doesn't make sense, but a lot of things don't. Now, coal is under severe criticism. But I know that if we can put a man on the moon and we can catch a spaceship traveling 41,000 miles an hour just a few weeks ago and put instruments on it that can turn around and get the cold side, then turn around and get the warm side from the sun and send images back to the earth, we men can clean up this coal. Don't you think? I see the shit. You're shaking your head. Yes. Yes, coal is never clean, but it's our best source of energy. Our really best source is nuclear power, and I like that the most. I've studied it considerably. Militarily, I was a scout. It's so easy, so quick, and 48% of your power today, if you read yesterday's paper, comes from nuclear energy. They're turning these things out at about 50% capacity. All they'd have to do is kick it up a little bit. You could get 100% of your power from their cheapest source in the world. They cost a lot of money to grow. Not as much money as a wind farm. The Horizon Wind Farm between Bloomington and Gibson City cost almost as much money as the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam, well, you're thinking about dollars not matching up with dollars, but it's a nice bet. Cost almost as much money, puts out continuously since 1936 the power for 5 states. The Horizon Wind Farm puts out enough power for 5 towns the size of Wing. Well, exciting, isn't it? And now, nuclear energy, 1 tablespoon full of uranium is equal to 740,000 tons of coal. So we can kind of get off the coal thing too, but we're going to turn that around. It started yesterday in this state with Governor Romney. It will start as soon as we either impeach or diselect our current president. We'll be back to burning coal. They put out emissions. These emissions are carbon dioxide and they're real bad. And if we hadn't had some last summer, Livingston County, and particularly this district, wouldn't have been able to grow 220 bushel corn. Because we need carbon dioxide to do that, and I don't care where it comes from. It could come from another volcanic eruption, such as they have in Hawaii, or our Mount St. Helens, which produced more energy than both of the bombs that we dropped in World War II on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. One volcanic eruption puts out as much emissions as we men have for 100 years. That includes the Detroits and the Pittsburghs and the Garys and the Hammonds and all that black smoke that we've kicked out. So the reason to have an alternate source of energy, might be something other than something that's not as more dependable than a wind farm or solar energy. Now we get off of this, I went out to the sewage plant yesterday and asked the man out here who's got a $640,000, you February people will never live long enough to pay for it, $640,000 wind well that isn't putting out power. It iced up the blades on Monday and then he can't do it, or something's wrong with it all the time. But the idiot that's running the plant thinks his next move might be to put in a solar panel. Well, they don't work all the time either, because sometimes when the wind isn't blowing, the sun isn't shining either. And as long as what I'm really proposing to you people, and to the people that are proposing the wind farm, and to the committee, is that we divorce ourselves from this energy madness. Because there's no need for it. There's plenty of stuff out there that we've used conventionally for years. And there's more technology coming down the pipe. Can you imagine if Toyota can make a hydrogen car, which is now on the market? We can make a little hydrogen fuel cell the size of this table that will put out power, more power in a month than all the windmills in the world would put out in a year, including the ones in Holland that pump the water. So that's where I'm at on wind farms. Don't ever get in your mind that they'll work. They won't. They're expensive. And obviously, from observing you people, in addition to all the economic violations that they create, they're creating some social injustice. And that's where I'm coming from, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We may have some questions for you. Okay. ZBA, do we have any questions? Okay. Mr. Lucan, no. Mr. Blazer.
I wouldn't dare.
Other interested parties in the audience? Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Schroff? County. Mr. Schroff, you're off the hook. We don't have any questions for you. Thank you. All right. We've got 9:23. I think it's a good time to recess for the evening. Just need to talk about a few things here so that everybody's aware. Okay, I'm going to explain this. February the 5th, this board will meet. We're not meeting in an effort to discuss anything related to this application. It's our normal monthly meeting, all right? Appearing on the agenda will be something related to ordinance and property values associated with wind farms. It has been our theory or our practice when we took that on to gather all the information available to make a decision regarding property values. At this point, all the property value information is possibly not been presented. We want to gather that information. So there's a very good likelihood that we will move that to a further forward date, all right? And that's on the 5th. So when everybody sees that, this board, yes, they will meet, not with the intention, not to discuss anything regarding this particular application. I want to make that very clear to everyone in the audience. All right. On the schedule, we have February the 9th, that's Monday the 9th, at the Pontiac Township High School at 6:30. All right? We have scheduled February 10th to be in this location at 6:30 again. All right. Chuck, did you have additional comments? Okay.
Just want to remind everybody that if you want to testify, present evidence, make a statement, you still need to sign up.
Okay. In the past few months, we've had difficulty getting a quorum from the Planning Commission to review several items, including this one. As of today, I
I will have a quorum for my regularly scheduled planning commission meetings coming Monday, February the 2nd. That meeting's at 7 p.m. and is in the historic courthouse of Pontiac. They will review this, but there is no testimony given. That's basically a discussion between me and them. It's a public meeting. I'm the only one that speaks to them unless they have questions of others. So it's not an open forum where there's questions and answers from everybody else. It's just kind of a closed issue. And they're only looking at the project in regards to its consistency with the Lucas County Comprehensive Plan. We're not looking at the project as a whole, just the consistency with the comprehensive plan, and they make a recommendation in regards to that.
So are people going to be allowed to speak? What?
All right, so does everybody understand what Chuck just tried to explain? All right.
Is there public comment allowed?
There is not public comment allowed at that meeting.
At the end of the meeting,
At the end of the meeting, after a decision may have been made. Okay?
What's the use?
The forum is designed to decide whether the project fulfills the comprehensive plan within the county. Okay? Does it meet specific conditions that are set forth in the comprehensive plan? All right? It's not an opinion based. Does it meet a specific condition as set forth? All right? Chuck will present those conditions, whether it meets or not meets. That board will act upon that. Public comment will happen at the end. And it's not our board. That is another board altogether. Do we have any other questions regarding that?
Yes.
Okay, we have two.
If I could have a couple questions. Your meeting on the 5th, where is it and what time?
The meeting on the 5th will take place
Historic Courthouse, 7 p.m.
at the historic courthouse at 7 p.m. Okay? There again, on the agenda will only be items related to property value guarantee, possibility of adding that to the wind farm ordinance. There's nothing more that I can add to that. Okay. Other questions? Mr. Kennedy, did you have a question?
I was just wanting to make sure you saw me.
Got it. Anybody else have any questions? Carolyn?
On the issue of the regional planning commission meeting, if people, if the objectors were going to present witnesses, would they present them then, or are you not going to allow any witnesses from anybody else?
Neither side's going to have any witnesses.
Okay, neither side will have any witnesses at that hearing. There again, it's only designed to decide whether it fulfills the comprehensive plan of the county.
Who set those deadlines?
They're in place. The comprehensive plan of the county has been in place. I mean, they periodically review it. I don't know the timeline on it, but they've already been spelled out.
But don't they make a recommendation to the ZBA on whether it meets the comprehensive plan or not?
That information will be presented to us. We will have either a yes, they feel it meets the comprehensive plan, or no, they feel it does not meet the comprehensive plan. We get that information, you guys will hear it, I mean, obviously, and we, as a ZBA, can use that in the decision-making process. Okay? And just a reminder to everyone in this audience, we make a recommendation at the end of these hearings. The ultimate decision still lies within the county board. Okay, so we attempt to sort through it, make our recommendation positively, negatively, positively with conditions. We choose what direction to take with that. There again, a recommendation to the county board. Is everybody clear on that? Any other questions that we can clear up?
Doesn't it go to the Ag Zoning Committee first before it goes to the county board?
Yes.
They don't have to take action.
They don't have to take action.
No, that is correct. The county Ag and Zoning Board does not have to take action. Any further questions? Now's the time to ask me, guys. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and I'm not a teacher.
Okay, from what I understand, we won't be able to make any public comment the meeting night before the county board makes their decision on this. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is the forum that the county board has determined the applicable place to make public comment.
Okay, and from what I understand in the past, they usually don't listen to you guys when it comes to wind farms. Is that correct?
I can't speak positively or negatively. I don't have a comment on that. I mean,
but
honestly,
my question
we
is,
do our job. 14 nights we're on, 3 hours. We've already dedicated 42 hours apiece doing this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you guys.
That's all we can do.
You guys are doing your job. But my question then is, if they don't listen to you and we can't talk to them before they vote on it, when do they really get our viewpoint on it? If they're not here, come attending all these meetings. Or how do we get that point across to them? We don't want this.
Each of the county board members has the opportunity, just like you all, to review transcripts, testimony, evidence. They have that opportunity to. They are elected officials. And certainly, everyone has the opportunity to speak with their elected officials.
Not when they don't have email.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is there anything else procedure-wise for the citizens prior to going to the full county board? Is there any other thing that would be recommended for citizens so that they can under, I think it's Section 5 of the Illinois Constitution, to air their concerns to their elected officials? Is there anything else that we should be advised other than keep attending the hearings, keep coming so that they understand and know how you think and feel? Is there anything else that we need to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that does affect such a large community?
Understood. My capacity as chairman of this board, I'm not privy to that. I can't. I can ask you to continue your attendance here, speak your feelings, have other individuals speak their feelings. We haven't shut anybody off. We are here to hear everyone, and we always have been. So that's the best I can do for you.
Yeah, you guys are doing your job, I think.
We're trying our best. We're trying our best. We're good. Other questions? We're good. We're gonna Carolyn.
So just so I understand, you're saying there will be no hearing regarding whether or not this is consistent with our comprehensive plan. There's not going to be any hearing at all for people to stand.
There is a hearing. It's the meeting of it's a meeting next Tuesday, Monday. Chuck, second. It's the meeting on the 2nd. Chuck presents the information into how it fits into the comprehensive plan. Okay, and that body follows the state statute on procedure. That particular committee.
I have another question. It relates to both of these proceedings. Is there going to be an opportunity for any written comment? I've been asked that by members of the public. Will people be able to submit a written comment to the record?
A written comment regarding
The application or the comprehensive plan, for example?
the application will accept written comment if you want to provide it as an exhibit testimony. We've never disallowed that.
Do they have to come here to do that? Do they have to come to here to do that, or can they mail it to the office, or?
The witness must appear. Okay. And be sworn, subject to cross-examination, all those things that every other witness is subject to. Okay.
Any time from now until this is all over with, whether it's county or you, will we have a chance, or will any of the expert witnesses be back?
there are some expert witnesses that will return. I'm just going to grab one. Blanc. Joanne Blanc. Believe she'll be back. There was some reference to some noise questions.
Well, actually, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lucahan has indicated that he doesn't need her back.
Oh, no.
The last time I talked
Okay, guys.
Just for the record, what I
Joanne
indicated
Blanc
was
will
that I
be
would
back.
be looking at whether I needed her back. I did not say I did not need her back.
Well, that hasn't been determined yet, evidently, Mr. Chairman.
Joanne Blanc will be back. Okay. I believe Mr. Hankard will be back. Is that correct? Did we get through? I might be wrong on that. Okay.
No, we're done with him in terms of his direct testimony.
Got it. Okay.
But again, if I may, with Mr. Hankard, what we decided, just so it's very clear, is that I still had the opportunity to cross-examine on his new things that were raised in Mr. Griffin's direct, correct?
That is accurate. There was additional information when the additional 20, I may have this number wrong, 21 LNTE turbines were added. That did basically open up the questioning for Mr. Hankard. So in answer to your question, there are some expert witnesses that will be back, and there are some that have been excused. For instance, the individual that did the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, Mr. Thayer, we've excused him from the hearings. We're done with him. Okay, so if you had a specific individual that you wanted to ask if they're coming back, come to us, and we can let you know whether they will be back.
But there will be no more expert witnesses at the county board hearing.
There will be no expert witnesses at the county board hearing. The only thing the county board hearing will entail is they'll have the information that we provide in a recommendation, okay? And obviously they'll have any activity that the Ag and Zoning Committee has taken on this to make their decision. Okay.
I just have a question about the comprehensive plan. Can anyone tell me when the comprehensive...
Speak up, please, I can't hear you.
I have a question about the comprehensive plan meeting. Can anyone tell me if there's going to be decisions made on whether or not they meet the comprehensive plan? Can anyone tell me when the comprehensive plan was last reviewed and updated?
2004.
All right. Chuck, when was the comprehensive plan last updated?
It's the 2020 plan, it's 2012, so it's relatively recent.
Okay, so it's a 2020 comprehensive plan. It was
A few years ago.
updated, it sounds like a few years ago, 2012. And that, don't hold me to that.
The comprehensive plan is in the record, Mr. Chairman.
The comprehensive plan is included in the record?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So that would be available through the county website. It has been put into the record by the applicant. And we have it, but
I did review the one that was out there. The reason I'm asking this question is said that it was structured in 2004, which means it has been
That's fine.
11 years.
okay.
So I'm just wanting to make sure that if there's one that's updated, there's 2012, if that's correct.
No, 2004 is fine, I don't know what year, it's a 2020 plan.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if there's an update, please put it out there.
The one that's in the record, Mr. Chairman, is the latest version.
Okay. There's the final answer on that. The most current is the one that's been submitted by the applicant. It is in record. Okay. And available on the county website. Okay. Anybody else with questions?
I have a question. What happens during that meeting if there is a portion or something that does not meet the comprehensive plan? At that point, what happens in that meeting? They strictly make a recommendation that you weigh it any way you want to do it.
Okay. The question was if there's a portion thereof that does not, they don't feel meets the comprehensive plan, they make a recommendation. I either way. Okay.
To reject or accept?
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt, but just for the record, for everybody who's looking for this, the comprehensive plan is actually UCLC Exhibit 13 that you can find on the website. That's where you can find it easiest.
Okay. UCLC 13. That motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering about scheduling, and we know we're not going to be done, obviously, the 9th and 10th. Has there been any discussion about scheduling after those 2 dates?
And if you want to know, we'll discuss it on the 9th. Okay, I understand it's inconvenient. At that point, it's kind of too, well, there's some holidays in there, so we got to work around them too. Okay, motion recess. Bits of motions. Can I get a second?